I want you to think for a second about the single most undervalued part of your entire home.
Oh, this is a good one.
It's not your furnace. It's not the roof. It's something you use, multiple times a day, every single day. But here's the thing. You probably never, ever think about it.
Not until it fails.
Exactly. Not until it fails.
And when this thing fails, failure is, putting it really mildly. We're talking about, immediate hazards.
We are talking catastrophic leaks. We're talking about structural rot that can literally eat your floor. And, well, that smell.
Oh, that dreaded sewer smell.
The one you can't mistake for anything else.
Yeah, that's the smell that sends people scrambling for their phones at 2 in the morning.
Which is exactly why we're here today.
Yeah.
We are going underneath the toilet. We're doing a deep dive into the, believe it or not, surprisingly complex world of toilet flange repairs.
And subfloor restoration.
Right. We're working for this really fantastic technical guide from the art of plumbing. And our mission today is pretty simple. We want to take this from, a moment of sheer panic and turn it into a solvable mechanical puzzle.
It really is just a puzzle. A messy one, for sure, but still a puzzle. But okay, before we get into the pieces, I have to pump the brakes for a second.
Okay.
The source material has this huge, red warning box right at the top, and I really need to echo it. We are dealing with raw sewer gases here. Methane, hydrogen sulfide, and potential structural issues.
This isn't like hanging a picture a little crooked on the wall. The stakes are higher.
Much higher. The guide is very clear. This is for educational purposes. If you pull up that toilet and the main cast iron pipe is crumbling, or if the floor just feels like a sponge.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, if it's spongy for 3 feet in every direction, just stop. That is the moment you call a licensed professional. There's a huge DIY at your own risk warning on all of this.
Understood. Know your limits. But for everyone listening who is maybe just incredibly curious or maybe just standing in a small puddle right now, let's unpack the problem.
Let's do it.
We keep saying flange. What even is a flange? It sounds like some made-up word.
It does, but it's actually pretty simple. The proper term is closet flange. And think of it as the adapter. It's the critical link between the toilet itself and the drain pipe in your floor.
Okay, so it connects the two.
It connects them, and it does 2 very specific jobs. First, it anchors the toilet to the floor. So, it doesn't just slide away when you sit on it.
Which is pretty important.
Very. But the second job is the most critical one. It creates the platform for the wax ring. And that ring is what makes a gas-tight, watertight seal. The flange is literally the gatekeeper between your bathroom and the city sewer.
That's a lot of responsibility for what is usually just a piece of plastic. And looking at the guide, it hasn't always been plastic, has it?
No, not at all. If your house is older, say built before the 70s, you're probably looking at cast iron.
The heavy stuff.
The tanks of the plumbing world. Super durable, but the guide points out that over decades, moisture and salts, they just corrode it. It rusts, expands, and eventually it just snaps.
Then you have the brass ones.
Right, brass. Tough stuff. Doesn't rust like iron, but still not indestructible and very expensive. Which is why in almost any home built in the last 30 or 40 years, you're going to find PVC.
Polyvinyl chloride.
Yep. It's cheap, it's light, it's easy to install, but the big trade-off is that it can be brittle. Over-tighten the toilet bolts, or if the house settles just wrong, and snap. That little crack is usually where all the trouble begins.
So how does someone listening know if their flange is a ticking time bomb? Besides, the obvious puddle on the floor. Are there subtle signs?
It's usually a feeling first. If you sit down on the toilet and it moves, even a tiny bit, a millimeter, that is a huge red flag.
The wobble.
The wobble. A wobble means the anchor has failed, the flange is probably cracked, or the screws have pulled out of the wood. And once the toilet moves, that wax ring seal is broken.
And then it's game over.
Pretty much. Water gets out with every flush, and sewer gas gets in.
Okay, so the wobble is the warning shot. Let's say our listener has confirmed the wobble, they've shut off the water, they've lifted the toilet. Let's walk through scenario A from the guide. The standard PVC replacement.
This is the most common fix you'll run into. Standard white plastic pipe in the floor, and you can see the rim of the old flange is cracked.
Now, before you even touch a tool, the guide mentions something it calls a crucial first step. And I love this because it's so simple, but if you forget it, you're in big trouble.
The rag trick. It is absolutely non-negotiable.
Just stuff a rag in the pipe.
You take an old towel, an old rag, and you stuff it firmly down into that open waste pipe.
Is that just to block the smell? Because I have to imagine it's potent.
The smell is part of it, for sure, but the real reason is debris. You're about to start hammering and chipping at brittle plastic. If a chunk of that falls down the pipe,
Oh, I see where this is
they
going.
can get stuck in the bend down the line.
Yeah.
And you have just turned a $20 flange repair into a $500 mainline clog. The rag is your safety net.
Okay, debris catcher, gas blocker. Got it. So now for the demolition. The guide makes this sound surprisingly aggressive.
It's controlled violence. That old flange is chemically welded to the pipe. It's fused on there. You often have to take a cold chisel and a hammer and just carefully chip away at the old ring.
But you have to be super careful not to crack the actual drain pipe below the floor.
That's the whole game. If you crack that pipe, you're in a world of hurt. You have to chip outward, away from the center, not downward into the pipe. It takes a bit of finesse.
All right, demo complete. We've got a clean pipe sticking up. Now comes the chemistry part. This isn't just regular glue.
No, it's a solvent weld. We say glue, but what you're really doing is chemically melting the plastic of the pipe and the new flange so they become one single piece.
And it starts with that purple stuff I always see on pipes.
The PVC primer. Yes, and it's purple on purpose so inspectors can see that you used it. It cleans the pipe, but more importantly, it softens that top layer of plastic, getting it ready to bond.
And then the cement.
Then the cement. And this brings us to what the source calls the ticking clock.
Yeah, this part actually stressed me out just reading about it.
As it should. This isn't wood glue where you've got time to adjust things. PVC cement sets in seconds.
Seconds?
Seconds. The moment you apply it, you have to push the new flange down, give it a quarter turn to spread the solvent, and get it aligned perfectly before it locks in place.
So you have to stick the landing on the first try. No second chances.
No second chances. If it sets crooked, your toilet is crooked forever.
Wow, high pressure. And after that, you just wait.
You wait. The guide is very firm on this. Do not reset the toilet right away. Give it at least 2 to 3 hours to cure. If you rush it and start tightening bolts, you can break that fresh chemical bond.
Okay, that makes sense. But of course, home repair is never that simple. Let's move on to scenario B, the deep set problem. This is when the pipe is like way down below the floor level.
A classic renovation problem. Somebody put new tile on top of the old tile, so the floor is now an inch higher than it used to be.
And the flange is now sitting down in a hole.
Exactly. A standard flange can't reach the pipe. You've got this gap you need to bridge, so you have to basically build an extension.
With another piece of pipe.
Yeah, you
Right.
use a PVC coupling and a short piece of pipe to bring the connection point up flush with the new floor. But this is where the guide has a really great pro tip about the type of flange to buy.
About the ring material.
Yes. They say never buy the all-plastic flanges if you can help it. Get the one with a PVC body but a stainless steel ring on top.
Why is that so important?
Think about it. You're tightening a steel bolt down onto a plastic slot. Over time, that plastic can stretch, it can warp, and the bolt head can pull right through it. The steel ring will never do that. It costs like $3 more, and it makes the repair last decades longer.
That seems like a no-brainer. The source also mentioned a long neck flange.
Yeah, the long neck, it's for when the pipe is just a little too low. It has a much deeper hub that reaches down inside the pipe to make the connection so you don't have to build that whole extension. It's a neat solution.
Smart. Okay, so those are the plumbing puzzles. Now for scenario C, the one the source calls the nightmare scenario. Repairing a rotten subfloor.
This is when your heart just sinks. You lift the toilet and the flange and screws come right up with it because the wood they were holding onto has turned to, well, mush.
Black, spongy wood.
Exactly. It's from a slow leak that's been happening for years, just wicking moisture into the subfloor.
So at this point, you're not a plumber anymore. You're a carpenter.
You're a structural surgeon, you need a reciprocating saw, and you have to cut out all the rotten wood. And the rule is, you have to be aggressive, cut until you see clean, dry, solid wood.
But isn't it risky just cutting into a floor like that?
It is. You have to set the depth of your blade to just the thickness of the subflare, usually 3/4 of an inch, so you don't accidentally cut a water pipe or a joist underneath.
Okay, so you've cut out a big square of rod. You're looking down at the joists, the beams that hold up the floor. What if the rod has gotten to them?
If it's just a surface stain, you're probably okay, but if that joist feels soft or spongy at all, you have to sister it.
What does sistering mean?
Sistering is where you take a brand new, healthy piece of lumber and you bolt it right alongside the damaged joist. You're not replacing the old one, you're reinforcing it. The new wood carries the load.
That makes sense. You restore the strength, and then you just patch the hole in the floor.
Yep, cut a new piece of plywood to fit the hole, screw it down to your new solid joists, and you have a fresh surface to mount your new flange.
But, and this is a big but, this source put a really hard limit on this.
A very important limit, the stop limit. If you cut open that floor and you see the rot continuing on under the bathtub or disappearing under a wall,
You stop.
you put the saw down, you stop chasing it. Because at that point, you're dealing with the structural integrity of your walls.
Right.
That's no longer a patch job. That's a full-on renovation.
Know when to call for backup. Good advice. Okay, let's switch to something a little less scary. Scenario D, the so-called magic fix. These repair flanges.
These things are brilliant. They're designed for situations where you can't or don't want to remove the old flange, especially with old cast iron pipes.
Right, because cutting out cast iron sounds like a huge, dangerous job.
It is. It involves angle grinders and sparks flying everywhere. This bypasses all of that. It's a drop-in flange. It has a rubber gasket on its neck.
So how does it seal without any glue?
It's all about compression. You just push the repair flange down inside the old pipe. Then you tighten a few bolts on top with an Allen wrench.
And that does what?
As you tighten those bolts, it squishes that rubber gasket, forcing it to expand outwards.
Oh, like a plug.
Exactly. It expands with incredible force against the inside of the old pipe, creating a totally waterproof and gas-proof seal. No demolition, no glue, no waiting.
But wait, if you're putting a pipe inside another pipe, doesn't that make the drain hole smaller? Is that a clog risk?
That is a very sharp question. And yes, you are reducing the internal diameter a little bit, but modern toilets are so efficient, and the pipes are generally large enough, 3 or 4 inches, that the guide says for almost every home, that slight reduction won't impact performance at all.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've fixed the flange, we fixed the floor, but we're not quite done. There's a section on the final polish, because even with all that work, the floor itself might not be level.
Right. Houses settle, tiles aren't always perfect. You can have a brand new flange, but if the toilet still rocks on the crooked tile, you're just going to break the new seal.
And the usual fix for that is shims, right? Those little plastic wedges.
That's what most people do, but the source actually argues against using only shims.
Right, that.
Because shims create point loads. You're putting all the weight of the toilet and the person on it onto just a few tiny points of plastic. It can create stress and even crack the porcelain base of the toilet over time.
So what's the better way? The guide mentioned something about cake batter.
The cake batter technique. It's a great old school trick. You mix up some plaster of Paris until it has the consistency of, well, cake batter or thick frosting.
And you just spread it on the floor.
You lay a thick bead of it on the floor around where the toilet base will sit. Then you carefully set the toilet down into it. The weight of the toilet squishes the plaster, filling every single tiny gap.
It makes a perfect custom-molded bed for the toilet.
Exactly. It distributes the weight perfectly evenly across the entire base. No more wobble, no stress points.
Okay, but plaster gets rock hard.
Yeah.
Are you basically gluing the toilet to the floor forever?
That's the common fear, but this is the cool part. Plaster of Paris, while it gets hard, doesn't actually have strong adhesive properties like silicone does. The guide makes it clear that if you need to remove the toilet later, a few tacks with a rubber mallet will cleanly break that plaster ring. It supports, but it doesn't permanently bond.
That is a brilliant distinction. So never, ever use silicone caulk to bed a toilet.
Please don't. It's an absolute nightmare for the next person who has to work on it.
Okay, one final debate from the source before we wrap. The wax ring. What about just stacking 2 of them if the flange is a little low?
Ah, the great debate. The guide gives it a qualified yes. If the gap is small, say 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch, you can stack 2 rings. But there's a trick to it.
You can't just plop one on top of the other.
No, you want to take them and kind of knead them together a bit. Press them so they become one single extra thick ring. If they're loose, they can shift and not seal properly. You're basically making your own custom super ring.
A MacGyver solution, but it works.
In a pinch, it works.
Wow. We have covered a ton of ground. We went from stuffing rags and pipes to sistering joists. It's a whole journey.
Yeah, it really takes the anxiety out of it and just turns it into a series of logical steps.
So before we finish, let's give the listener the absolute non-negotiable commandments from the source.
Okay, commandment 1. Never, ever reuse a wax ring. It costs $5. Just get a new one. It's not worth the risk.
Makes sense.
Commandment 2. Always use new bolts. The old ones are probably rusted and weak. Get solid brass bolts. They'll never rust.
And the final check.
Commandment 3. The dry run. Before you even touch the wax ring, Set the toilet in place over the flange. Make sure it sits flat. Make sure the bolts line up. You only get one shot once that sticky wax is on there, so test everything dry first.
Measure twice, sit once.
Exactly.
You know, as we wrap this up, something is really sticking with me. We call the flange an unsung hero at the start. But when you really break down the mechanics of it, the gases, the seals, the gravity, it just makes you realize how fragile our whole modern setup is.
How so?
I mean, we live in these clean, comfortable homes and just take hygiene for granted.
Yeah.
But the only thing separating your nice, clean bathroom from, the city sewer system is a $5 ring of beeswax and a plastic collar.
It's a very, very thin line when you think about it that way.
It is. And it works perfectly silently for decades, just based on simple physics, no computers, no electricity, just a seal.
It really makes you look around the rest of your house and wonder what other invisible, fragile systems are just quietly doing their job, holding everything together.
Yeah. We flip a light switch, we turn a faucet, and we just have total faith. But behind the walls, it's all just simple mechanics that are slowly wearing out.
The unseen ticking clocks.
The unseen ticking clocks. That's definitely something to think about the next time you walk into a bathroom.
Or the next time you feel a little wobble.
Check the wobble, everyone. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Hopefully your floors stay dry and your flanges stay firm.
Stay curious and stay dry.
We'll see you in the next deep dive.